The bubble has burst. The days of selling out in seconds are over. The watch industry is on the precipice of an identity crisis, and that's okay by me. Hi, I'm Zach Weiss, co-founder of Worn & Wound, and today I'm going to be going hands-on with a new watch by a new brand whose very existence is meant to challenge norms. The brand is Anoma, and the watch is the A1, their debut release launched June 6th, 2024. Over the last decade or so, I've gotten to witness firsthand the watch industry grow, shift, refine, explode, and begin to recede. From the inception of the micro brand, to the vintage market boom, to an increase in quality in general, to flirtations with the mainstream, to an inevitable withdrawal. It's been a fun, if unpredictable epoch that has seen various trends come and go. Throughout, the desire to return or replicate the heyday of the modern wristwatch has been the connective fiber of the dominant trends. As the industry began to dust itself off after many years of quiet irrelevance, eyes of a new generation of tech-weary collectors wanted to reset to a time when watches were cutting edge, were discovering themselves in terms of design and functionality, aka the mid-20th century. What this led to was a surveying of the decades, finding the essence of a moment, such as the creation of the dive watch or motorsport chronograph, and permutating on that until the market and collections were saturated. Then moving along to the next trend, which, slowly but surely, touched on most of the major aesthetic and functional concepts of the 1900s, bringing us to a point where what's next is the big question. Enter Anoma. Founded by Matteo Violet Vianello, a former employee of Sotheby's and a collected man, Anoma is on the vanguard of a new generation of brands that are confronting this question directly. Rather than safe, iterative injections of new ideas, they're going straight for it with bold concepts out of the gate. The A1 is a wristwatch, for sure, but it's not round, it has no lugs, it doesn't have a seconds hand or a date, or even an obvious crown. It's neither cheap nor expensive in terms of watches, but it costs enough that it's not an impulse either. And it, well, doesn't look quite like any other watch you've seen before, or at least not in a long while. The A1's form is that of a softened, rounded triangle, like a weathered stone. According to the founder, it was inspired by a mid-century freeform table by French architect and designer Charlotte Perriand that was spotted in a Paris antique shop. The form, organic and provocative, also reminds me of another famed piece of mid-century furniture, Isamu Noguchi's iconic coffee table from 1944. Design likenesses aside, it's clearly an irregular form for a watch, but what strikes me immediately is that despite being something fresh in the current watch market, it's still rooted in mid-20th century aesthetics. Just not necessarily watch aesthetics, though perhaps a bit of that as well, but I'll get to that later. Measuring 39 by 38 millimeters with a height of 9.45 millimeters, the A1 is relatively compact, though bold in its form. It's not an attention seeker per se. A three-part case, it's made of fully polished stainless steel and is not only rounded from the top down, but around as well, with large radiuses along all edges, giving it an amorphous liquid metal quality. As the 80s baby that I am, I would be remiss at this point not to mention a relevant film that I watched many times as a child, Flight of the Navigator from 1986. A sci-fi film for kids, it featured a sentient, shape-shifting alien spaceship of smooth mirrored metal with a form that spoke to both stealth aeronautics and, madeleines, the little French cookies, which also look like seashells. Look, my mind associates how it associates. The point is this. In 1986, or likely 1989 or 90 or whenever it is I first watched it, it was the epitome of futuristic design and completely convincing to my child mind. Nostalgia, it's a powerful tool. But more to the point, the Anoma A1, like Max, the nickname of the ship, mixes organic with futuristic, life with the artificial. Furthering the effect of the smooth shape, the crown is hidden within the blunted vertex on the right side. An essential detail to the success of the design, the lack of protrusions or interruptions keeps the focus on the evocative triangular form while further breaking from watch conventions, adding to its overall charming weirdness. Another essential element of the case design is actually how it sits on the 18mm strap. Rather than running symmetrical, another watch design norm, the A1 sits off-center vertically with more watch on the right side of the strap, though horizontally it is equal. meaning it's not a twisting form, and yet somehow it does look like it's twisting. Which brings me to the dial opening. The dial opening, and crystal feature a similar rounded triangular shape, but one that comes to tighter corners. Rather than sitting equally offset from the sides of the case, it's askew, rotated a few degrees off axis. This does several intriguing things. First, it creates a sense of motion, like the watch is turning clockwise ever so slightly. It also further breaks with symmetry, as the opening is neither aligned vertically or horizontally, adding to an overall oddness that pervades the A1. Getting into the dial, you'll find a flat surface combining brushed and polished finishes lacquered to a rich blue-green hue. According to their copy, the dial features 3 layers of lacquer, 1 in greenish blue and 2 in midnight blue, creating this stunning color. Because of the mixed finishes, the different sections of the dial shift between light and dark, popping in the light. Printed on the dial is a simple index in light gray, featuring thin lines per hour within the polished region of the dial, with bolder pointed lines at the cardinal points coming in from the edge of the dial, cutting across all surfaces, leading to thin crosshairs intersecting at the center. The Anoma word logo sits at 6, while a rounded triangle symbol is at 12. The index is practical yet somehow jarring. Despite being on the minimal side of things, without an index at all, it would be a very difficult watch to read, as the elements one's eyes would gravitate towards don't align with the hours. But unlike the other elements, the index adds a rigid grounding element. This isn't a bad thing, but it does contrast with the flowing feel of the case. Also, the index does appear to be center about the strap. Personally, I like that the watch is strange yet legible, abstract and practical, simply because I'd be more inclined to wear it. That said, I'm not big on dials with no indexes in general, so this might just be my bias showing. The final element are the hour and minute hands, which feature a shape that's something between a leaf hand and a fountain pen nib. The closer one examines them, the more complex they appear, with curved surfaces that echo the shifting reflections on the case. At no point in wearing this did I miss having a seconds hand. Anyway, art, design, and novelty are all well and good, but this is a watch, so how it wears really matters. And with some of the oddly shaped watches I've encountered over the years, sometimes the look in the hand and the feel on the wrist don't come together. Some sculptures are best left in the gallery. The A1 is not one of those watches, thankfully. Upon first strapping it on, it was clear that the proportions were very well considered. On my 7-inch wrist, it looks neither large nor small, but rather just right, framed by my wrist on all sides. At 39 by 38 with an 18mm strap, that's not surprising. But because of the shape, the way it reads is unlike a normal watch. The numbers just reflect the widest points, but the shape shifts around, constantly changing in dimension, which makes it feel even smaller. But what it might lack in scale, though I'm not complaining about the size, is balanced out by the exotic shape. I imagine they tested quite a few sizes to lock this in, as it certainly would have been tempting to make it a bit larger to have more impact. So I admire the restraint exercise in keeping it on the smaller side. With that all said, that's based on my wrist size, and I do think if you had a larger wrist than mine, it could start to get small. I guess Anoma will just need a jumbo model in the future. Width and length aside, the height is also a success. At 9.45mm, the A1 already registers on the not too thick side of things. But this dimension is further minimized by the wide radiuses on the bezel and prominent undercut that begins about halfway down the case. Just look at that profile, pure flight of the Navigator. The point is, it wears well and is very comfortable. Given the eccentric design, polished case, and size, I see this watch as one that will transcend any boundaries of attire. It can easily be worn very casually, but I also think it would look great with a blue suit. A tux I'm on the fence about, but hey, why not? Regardless, it will be a conversation starter, no matter the situation. The only thing I haven't touched on is the movement, which is neither common nor particularly exciting. Inside is the Sellita SW100, which is very similar to an SW200, but smaller in diameter. It still beats at 28,800 beats per hour, has a 42-hour power reserve, and features 25 joules. Given the shape and size of the A1, it's not surprising that they'd have to use a smaller movement, which I frankly see nothing wrong with. Okay, time to put a bow on this hands-on with the Anoma A1. I started this video with some pretty bold statements about the watch industry being at a point of internal strife, searching for a new identity and direction. Look, I was being a bit dramatic. But I also think it's at least partially true. The same old thing doesn't cut it anymore. Those of us collectors who have been around for a while want to be surprised. We want to find something new. And new collectors have more choices than ever. So things need to be able to stand out. And Anoma has managed to offer that to both. Is it for everyone? Decidedly no. And that's part of its charm and its intent. The idea of selling to the collective, being the brand that gets the most vintage details correct or offers the best value, matters less now than offering a new experience. Admittedly, when well executed. But let's also be clear. The Anoma A1 is novel for the time and place we are currently in. But the idea of shaped watches is not new. In fact, the mid-20th century was full of them. It's hard not to look at the A1 and see shades of watches like the Hamilton Ventura and Pacer. Where the A1 really succeeds, to my eyes, is in taking this mid-century concept and mid-century inspired form and bringing it into the 21st century. The A1 is not pastiche, it feels contemporary. While I can see the past in it, I can also see modern designers like Mark Newsom, Ross Lovegrove, and Tom Dixon in its sleek metallic form. The Anoma A1 is priced at 1,300 British pounds or about 1,700 US, which makes it a watch that only someone who really likes it will buy. If you start getting into the value comparison game for specs, it's not going to win. But where it stands out is in design and personality. The designers mentioned before, especially Lovegrove and Dixon, are very material and surface focused. Given the sculptural intent of Anoma, I think this is where they really should push. Prices be damned. Needless to say, I'm excited to see where Anoma takes the A1 and whatever else they might have in store. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.